Well, I mean, it's really a long story that unfolds over a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In 2004, I was involved in an assault on Fallujah, which was kind of a big deal at that time. Yeah, that's when I took the photo of him smoking a cigarette. And then you fast forward a year later, and then he comes home, and then he goes on CBS this morning, says that he has PTSD. So the timeline was 2004 to 2007. It was like a long time.
Pull the trigger on that person.
And again, in that 3-year span, there were two major events that happened. First of all, the photo was transmitted from Iraq, and it was on every front page of every newspaper
It's
in
almost
America.
like with them.
So that was the first time it made an impact. And then the second time it made an impact was when there was the complete story on him after the war, but dealing with PTSD. So, 2004, Marine was a big deal. 2007, it was a big deal again, just because it was a follow-up story to a guy whose face everybody had seen, like front page. Like some of these newspapers used the photo as their entire front page. It took a long time to report the story and to really get to know it. Well, I'm a photographer. I mean, I practice my craft. I don't practice my craft on an iPhone. I have a craft. I have a skill. I'm a really, really good photographer.
Yeah.
And I need to bring the proper equipment. So when I went to war, I wasn't, the iPhone wasn't even invented that in 2004. Was there an iPhone around? I have a craft, and that's what I do. I take photographs. I like to take photographs with cameras. I don't necessarily enjoy taking photographs with an iPhone. So. They were like Canon EOS 1Ds. They were like the very first Ds of the D series. So, they're now at the Mark IV and the DX. So they're like 5 generations later. So this was very early. I switched over completely to digital in 2000.
Okay.
So 2004, I had EOS 1D.
The space that I need for myself, and I communicate with other people.
They were not full frame. I think the biggest files they took were like 8 meg or less than that, 6, something like that. So the files weren't very big, and the cameras were not very good in low light. Yeah, Carlos. I mean, the thing started in those epic fucking battle of Iraq, right? And it was like near-death experience, one after the next. So, like, for either me or Blake to get out of there unharmed or alive, that's already up in the air. That question is up in the air, right?
Yeah.
And then the second part of the story would be that I transmit a photo from the combat zone. And wouldn't you know it? It makes every front page of every newspaper the next day. I mean, that's not something that happens every day, right? You understand that, right? And then for him to become the poster boy of the Iraq War, and then to come back from the Iraq War, and then confess to the whole world that, like, hey, I might be the poster boy of the Iraq War, but my head's fucked up with PTSD. I mean, that's in itself quite a development, right? I mean, it's like he's a Marine. They're not even supposed to do that shit. And I tell people that, like, a story like that comes around very, very rarely. I mean, it's forged first in a place where, like, it's life and death, right? You don't even know whether you're in it. And then from there, there's a bunch of other complexities. I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a very, very special story, and that's why 9 years after it was produced by Devious Woman resonates with people like you. The elements are just supreme. The stars line up, all the planets line up, and this does not happen every day. come up with a story, you can videofy it, you can give it all the bells and the whistles and give it like Hollywood production. But if your story is not compelling, you don't have anything. The moment I snapped that picture, we forged a bond that I get around when I talk to them. I get around, when I die, and if anybody, if newspapers are still out there, and anybody writes an obituary, they will not use my photo for my obituary. They will use his photo.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we have a real bond.
Might as well make one.
From the moment the photo was snapped to the present, through doing the story, he talked to me because I was there. I was there at the moment the whole genesis of this freaking thing started. I mean, there were other reporters, other TV types that interviewed him. There's a video on the BBC. There's a story in Rolling Stone magazine. I believe, like, one of CBS did something on him. So there's a lot of stuff out there that the one that basically documented his struggle through 2 years of PTSD, it was just me. He didn't want anybody else aboard. He was just like, hey, I just want you. So I got way inside. And again, this shit doesn't happen every day. Like, what kind of videos are you guys going to make? What kind of budget are you going to have to make this? You guys all have to make a living too,
Yeah.
Like, after living 56 years, I had a wife, I had 2 wives, kids, mortgages. What, you want to live in a freaking hovel under the freaking freeway? I mean,
No.
You can spend all your money trying to right all the injustices in the world with deep-ass videos, but if no one's paying you, fucking forget it. It's like growing fruits. It takes time. It takes resources. And if you have neither in the current existing environment, then you may want to try to find something else. I mean, look for grants. Maybe grants will do it. That's what the LA Times was doing. We're looking for grants to send people on in-depth stuff.